All right, so this is funny, peculiar funny, let's say, though really, I mean funny. All right, oh, look, I've misspelled Carmel's name. I called her Carmet1119. Well, mentioning you at all, Carmel, is, it just is part of my not wanting to be a purist about things, including my decision not to deal with you and your noxious personality. Excuse me, what I feel is a noxious personality. So anyway, Snakepliskenist has this channel, Rizzle Dizzle, and he's made of... So Snakepliskenist is back on YouTube, and he's got a channel, Rizzle Dizzle. And there's a video here titled For Big Lundy, Hythla 71 and Piro 314 Yodo. You only die once, I guess that means. Now, so there was a little exchange. Now, in this exchange, he admits, as he has done in another video as well, that, you know, maybe there is a use to introspection, and philosophy might not be his thing, but educating people in philosophy might have a purpose to help organize people's thoughts, and I agree with that, especially as a relativist, of where we add into this that, you know, it's not one thing. There's not one way to organize your thoughts. It's more in skepticism about reflecting on that organization, so you can do whatever you see fit about it. And this is sort of something I think that has to happen. Sure, I want to convince people to have, you know, to use the best tools available for their reasoning and rational processes, but I don't think most people are there, and so it's really just, hey, you know, introspect. You might be wrong about what you think you see in yourself, but it's better than not looking at all, basically. You're going to have some experience doing that before you're going to even begin to know why some tools are better than others in, you know, to use for that process. So anyway, he makes this video, and a commenter named Muammar says, "Who could have guessed you would turn into, or were all along, a moral faggot? And now talking about philosophy, question mark, exclamation, question mark, exclamation." To which Rizzle Dizzle says, "I'm not moral. Your stupidity is fucking astonishing. I mean, not really. I've been on the internet a while now. Your stupidity is of the highest caliber." That's better. And then I respond to Muammar, but YouTube in its infinite wisdoms decided not to put that little plus Muammar thing in there when I hit reply, so it doesn't say who it's to, and I say, "You will be destroyed." Now, think about that for a moment. You will be destroyed. I said this to a dude who says, "Who could have guessed you would turn into, or were all along, a moral faggot," and now talking about philosophy. But it could be taken to be a comment to Rizzle Dizzle, I guess, in retrospect. It could be. Carmel says, "Are you psychotic? You're threatening to destroy an anonymous troll on the internet? You need to reassess your priorities. You're not well." Which is sort of a typical Carmel comment. Ironic, let's face that. It's a very ironic comment. I mean, just a moment ago in some other video of his, she's talking about how everybody here is now in the friend zone, and I will retract my claws, and I will... And God only knows what she was even talking about then, but the whole idea that, I don't know, you know, it's like it was just sprayed out there on the internet. Like, I personally, if that was directed at me, which I don't take it to be, it's like, well, I don't want to be your friend, let alone anything more than your friend. So what basis of reference, you know, are you making this comment about? So she says to me, "Are you psychotic? You're threatening to destroy an anonymous troll on the internet. You need to reassess your priorities. You're not well." To Carmel, I said, I didn't threaten, I made a prediction. Also, mirror, reflect yourself. So, you know, I did not say I will destroy him. That is not something that would probably come from me. Certainly not in this context. I made a prediction: he will be destroyed. This person with this idea, this concept of a moral faggot. I made a prediction that he will be destroyed. An optimistic prediction, I might add, that he will be destroyed. And I don't see any reason that I should do otherwise. I think it's a very good comment, one of my better comments. Now, Rizzle Dizzle replies to Carmel, right, saying, agreed on all points except my anonymity and priorities. His threats to destroy me amuse us both. That's important. Snake, you're probably, well, I know some people find it impossible to accept what I'm about to say, and you may be one of those people, but I don't hold you any, I don't bear any grudges. I don't hold any grudges against you. Our conflicts were, well, they involved holy shit. I knew it was a mistake to,
yeah.
I knew it was a mistake to post
Oh,
this.
hold on a minute, dude. Hold on. I was waiting. I watched like 2 maybe. I was like, Pyro, this little bitch won't even post his links. So what's the topic today, Pyro? I promise to just listen, and if I feel like I need to raise a point, then I will. But I won't be a total bitch.
That's okay. I just see that Snakepliskenist has responded to my comment. Mm-hmm. He says you didn't hit the reply button that directed it toward him. Fair enough, Snake. I understand that this was...
I'm not Snake. Don't tell me.
I'm talking to somebody else. That I'm making... This is a video as a reply to somebody else.
I'll shut up. I'm sorry for applying some shit.
No, that's okay. I just thought it would be, you know, hey, why not? You know, post the link to the hangout and make it a hangout. Maybe somebody will show up. Least of all that I think that it would be,
Yeah, you're like,
oh,
for fuck's sake.
Well,
really?
whatever. You don't even know who Snakepliskenist is, probably.
Yeah, I do. The guy with the eye patch.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah, well, he's got a fucked up eye at the moment, so... I don't know if he's got an infection or something, but...
Well, why do you say that?
Well, because someone said it. I think it was Hafladay. He's going on a Hafladay. Hafladay did you see the interview with Amendon with Hafladay?
I did.
Oh, okay, that was cool. But anyway, it kind of stemmed from there. He called Hafladay. He said Hafladay rapes feminists. I didn't know how that was supposed to be implied, but I was like, okay.
Well, I think it was just, I don't know, sardonic or some word like that.
Yeah. Anyway, how are you doing, Pyro? Good sir.
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. But I'm loving the fact that you're on air for once. Well, twice, 3 times.
Well, that's right. And I've been trying to have a time zone coincidence with you, so I guess this is it. So you came and well, I was just about... No, I guess I did say already that I don't hold Snake in any sort of, begrudged state, basically.
You're not that type, Byron. You don't...
Well, no, I am. I can be. It's just that with Snake, I always thought that he was just sort of a cynical type, had a certain sense of humor, but I ended up realizing there was more to it than that, because I totally... misapprehended what his reaction would be to... Basically, I was waiting to have a conversation with him on another subject. I replied to him while he was making videos not directed at me, and then I was totally surprised that he seemed at the time kind of butthurt. But I was going to say that I actually totally endorsed this new introspection and this new kind of honesty. But I never really thought in the old days that, I didn't consider him as misrepresenting himself. I mean, he was saying things like, I'm 65 years old and I'm an internet millionaire, and I thought those were more like tall tales than lies, personally. So
Well, I mean, he has got one of them sense of humors. He's a very
exactly.
smart guy. I will give him that. He's very intelligent, but um, we're all flammable, which
Well,
would be
have
the
you
case.
seen? Are you familiar with his current channel and his return to YouTube?
Yes and no. The reason why I would say no is because YouTube doesn't really interest me that much anymore, in the sense
Oh, I
of
see.
how it used to be. Like when we first started interacting, YouTube was kind of like the thing, and then we'd move to Stickam, and it'd be interesting debates, and I'd get kicked by Gary as usual. So it'd be kind of like, I don't know, it'd be less than what we discuss kind of thing, but. I think with him, it's like he's a very smart guy, but I think like you're a very smart guy in your own way. But at the same time, we're all flammable to making mistakes and interpretation of the way other people speak. Exactly, I can point
Yeah.
out one example: you and Haffleday. You're good friends in the sense, but the way
What
you
about
guys
you and
speak
me?
to each. Well, yeah, remember the sun's black shit. Remember that
Yeah, well,
one?
the
That was
thing is, you
hilarious.
kept a sense of humor through that whole thing. Actually, it is relevant in that that is more what
Hmm.
I expected from Snake Plisskenist. Like, some
Humor.
claimage that was honest, and it's like, hey, you're a jerk, and I mean it. On
Yeah.
the other hand, I don't really mean it, and keeping a sense of humor and sort of being able to assess the situation. And I
Yeah.
think he is that kind of person. So I'm invested in this, in his reassessment of
Well, I
what
hope he's
kind of
right. That was
communication he wants to do, and you and I sort of did that organically. Uh,
Well, I
I
think
think
I
at the
don't think
time.
we I don't yeah I was gonna say I don't think we take each other too seriously. We take the substance seriously, but we don't take each other how we come across seriously, in the sense of banter. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, that's just
Yeah,
fun for us. That's just like
right.
how we would be if we was in a pub or some shit. Do you know what I mean? We would have
Yes,
a laugh, insult each other, but the premise of the argument would be tangible in that sense. Like
right.
we'd have to
Or like
argue
you
about
called me a plank,
it. Constant.
and to me that was like I didn't know what a plank was, and
Yeah.
so thank you because that's great. Now I call people planks. Is it a plank? It's not a plank, right?
Yeah, it's not a plank. There you
Okay.
go. You just insulted me because I said plank's constant wrong. That's the fun though, isn't it? It's like, I think if the best people I get on with who are intelligent, because obviously I don't like stupid people, but you've got to give room for personality. If you don't do that, it's the argument itself comes across as arbitrary as well. I think there's no room for debate, and that's what makes a human being a human. To make fun of other people's positions might not be true always, but in order to do that most people would get, and I'm sure you can agree with me, that most people who disagree tend to always find that they agree on most things. It's how they come across it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think that's an interesting point, and I do think that's true in the sense it's sort of psychologically inevitable because to even engage in a conversation, there sort of has to be some sort of similarity at some level in the principles you're applying, so that you
Yeah.
can interpret the other person's message well enough to even disagree with it.
Mm.
And I totally will admit I miscalculated what was going on with Snake and what he was going through at the time, or rather not what he was going through, because I still don't know that, but I mean what his YouTube communication meant to him.
Yeah.
And I actually expected him to react more in the way you reacted, which is to go ahead and feel free to you know,
Have fun, but still
yeah,
keep the premise of the
right.
argument
I
going.
thought at the time he got a little more actually butthurt
But her.
than I would have expected, and as a result, I was more. I gave myself more liberty in my insults or my approach to the situation
Mm. But
than I
that's what
would
that.
have if I thought he was sensitive.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Well, you're not. You're. That's what you. Well, I would say that's what would imply you to do anyway. As if the conversation goes that way, that's what you would do. Not as a defense mechanism, but like you're saying. Well, if you're not taking this as a joke and you're insulting me based on different premises, then how are you supposed to have fun? The way we did in our differences and apply the same rules. You can't do that. It's based on the other people's interpretation of the actual core arguments, you know.
So I had this idea that since auto upload doesn't work for me, that hey, what the hell? I'll do auto upload with the Google Hangouts, and I could.
Yeah.
And if I don't publish the Google Hangout link, then it's just like auto upload. And I figured, well, screw that. I'll go ahead and publish the link so that you can wander in.
Well, I would like to say the fact that I'm actually pleased because you're a lot more refreshing than, let's say, Gary, because Gary is very restrictive in how we disagree about stuff, and you know that's the only flaw about Gary. He's so determined it's only his way, and that's not the point of an argument or a discussion. A discussion should be based on the premise and then bring evidence to each other's side, but he won't listen to another person's side because he's so determined that he's right and you're always wrong regardless of what you say.
Well, I think that's a little bit of an illusion. I think that's a little bit of an illusion because, for example, if you watch that Hythloday interview, he totally flames out at the end of the first hour, but he comes back in a way you would expect people not to come back, and then Hythloday is giving him credit for, well, at least you engage all comers and you don't run away and you don't have these arbitrary rules, and Gary's like, well, I don't deserve any credit because look at it, I blow my top. So I mean, with Gary, it's an interesting thing, and at least maybe I'm just protecting my.
Gary, right?
He's very exactly. Emotional. Right, but so how do we dig beneath, some superficial expression of, of intolerance, for example? Because a lot of people say that, or Star of Sagittarius, this dude, was saying that Gary threatens people online, and I think Gary is really, he's one of the most belligerent, but that doesn't necessarily make him threatening, and it's because,
Gary actually reminds me. Gary reminds me of me when I speak to him because he doesn't take any nonsense, but I think that in order to grow as a person, you need to just shut up and just go, okay, that's the premise of this person's arguments. And if you can't really adapt to that, then there is no real discussion. You're basically discounting another person's truth. And that, what I would say, is wrong. And I've had to learn that it's not something that I just fucking developed overnight. I've had to literally pay attention to how I treat people, and that's kind of ironic to say the least, because I've got a big mouth. I'm whoever. I don't do it anymore because I feel like my intention maybe corrupts the message somewhat, And I've had to think about that a few years in the sense of, before when we was talking ourselves.
Well, I went through that, and I'm much older than you at this point, so I mean, it might be actually a similar kind of time frame. I had to think that, and I would like to think that I do adjust how I interact with people based on sort of their own sensitivities and stuff. But and that's how I misjudged Snakepliskenist at the time. Though I'm feeling vindicated, and I'm invested in his new approach to this kind of communication, because it's in my personal interest, I guess, because it seems more like I had thought it was initially. But as far as it's a relief. It's like it's a relief when you think. Well, it's relief if you actually have found somebody, but since you never know that, when you think you have found somebody, that you can just go ahead and say whatever. You can say whatever witticism, you can say whatever criticism, and it's not that it's not taken seriously. It's going to be answered, maybe even as if it was literal, but like we were saying, that there's sort of an understanding,
right? A camaraderie as well.
Right, and or yeah, exactly. The camaraderie of people that are like, let's have a battle of wits. Some of them might sting, but if you're fencing with somebody, sometimes you get stabbed with that little, needle poker,
I mean that's the point. Just like I would love them to come on now and join the Hangout. I would love most of the people that we both know. Because I think a lot of what you say is very intellectual and stuff. I've never said you're fucking stupid and stuff because I don't feel that personally. We mightn't agree on certain things, but I don't think us disagreeing. I don't think us disagreeing is the reason for discounting, shall we say, of someone's principles. Do you know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
did
'Cause I've
say
always,
that to
I've
you
always,
about that black sun stuff. But see,
yeah,
I had made a guess that you would just be like, oh, this plank. Well, here's what I'll say back to him. And in your case, it was actually, I think, more or less accurate, and that is the way you took it. And it could get confusing where you really stand, but like when we would talk, we could kind of figure that out. I don't know, since you're not watching YouTube. I mean, Gary kicked me out of his tiny chat
again.
a couple months ago. Yeah, again, but I'd finally had enough because I stopped drinking. I
Come
wasn't,
on,
or maybe
dude.
it was before I'd stopped, but I was drinking a lot less. I hadn't been drinking that night, which makes me much less tolerant of bullshit. And I was just like, I was logged in, I was listening, and he attacked me because of videos I made to someone else. Screw that. So I haven't been going in there, and I haven't
No, but
been watching any of his videos.
honestly, you know what I don't like about you, right? Where like you accept, and this is being honest, right? I've been drinking for a long
Fuck you.
ass time myself. No, I've been drinking for a long ass time.
Yeah.
And when people use my drinking as an excuse for how I speak and how I come to the form of logic I come to, that's a ad hom, to say the
Yeah,
least.
no, that was always my reaction. It's harder now. I mean, Snake mentioned it, and it's like, no, I know that's how it is. I mean, really, you can more easily be attacked about those things if you retreat. But luckily, I didn't retreat from that because of anything
I
anybody
never
else said.
do. I never do. I've been drinking since I was like 18 solidly, and I'm like 32, and I still fucking drink. But I can still type and close my eyes faster than most people can talk. I still can understand physics better than most people.
Well, have
It's
you ever
just,
been at a party and people told you to stop talking about philosophy or politics or
yep.
something? We're here to have fun. What are you doing?
Yeah, shut up. It's just like,
Fuck
okay,
you. This is
then,
fun.
you know.
Yeah, no,
But
there's
that's the
always a couple others.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
no, and
that
there's a
doesn't
long
make you
history
wrong
to it,
though.
and among novelists, it's the
Yeah.
rule.
It doesn't make you wrong though, and I think as soon as you accept your position as wrong because someone's give you a abstract reality to what what you should conform to as intelligence, I get pretty pissed off at that point. I just do. I'm just like, no. I'm not gonna accept the fact that because I can drink beers that I'm somehow less intellectual when I'm sober.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I totally
Yeah.
agree with that. And there's even and I would add that there's an extra complexity to it when you
I'm more
decide for
I'm
your
more
own reasons.
Well, I'm just saying I'm more actually intelligent when I'm fucking pissed because I've got more passion. And it's like, oh, don't. I remember more. And this is the point that people forget. When I'm drunk or when you're drunk, maybe you did the same thing. You're more passionate about your subject because it invokes. That's what alcohol does. It invokes this kind of like Superman thing, right? And yeah, I do become Superman because I know what the fuck I'm talking about. It might seem that way to other people. I might seem
Yeah.
vulgar or insulting, but the way we perceive reality, don't think because I drink is somehow I'm missing out on, the perception because you'd be very wrong. You
Well,
know.
I kind of think it's almost it's I don't know. I think the effect for me is a little bit different in that I get more tolerant.
Hmm.
Maybe the language would still seem more belligerent or something. I don't really know about that, but I don't drink I've never drunk when I went to work, and I've gotten in arguments and like, well, I'll prove it on the whiteboard what I'm saying, and people have cried, and then I'm in trouble for being too mean. So I mean, I'm an I love you man drunk. So if anything, the
That's it. That's it.
self-medication of it was, and that's where it intersects with this being a social lubricant. I mean, in a way, it's easier for me to put up with bullshit and laugh about it when I've been drinking. And actually, I've been thinking about making a video on the positives of drinking because I certainly have not,
Well, dude,
turned
I
on it
mean,
like,
no, but you know what? You've actually raised some good points about the whole drinking thing. Like when people say to me, "Oh, you drink every day or whatever," it's like, yes, I do. And what's your point? Like, I want to ask you, what's the point? I can still roll up scientific theories and all the shit that I already know, but because I have a drink, it's like, what are you trying to explain to me? You know? I use that well, I would say benefit my own existence in the sense I like being on this frame of mind because it makes me actually more aware than maybe I would be when I was sober. If I was sober, yeah, I'd probably be even more of a cunt than you already know me. Like you just said, I'm more accepting when I'm,
Hmm.
drunk in that way. But at the same time, I might speak more. I might be more like, a bit weird. But don't think that I'm stupid because I've had a drink, because I'm not. If anything, when you
Yeah.
call me that when I'm drunk, it's gonna make me even more enraged. You know. It's going to feel like you're insulting my intelligence that I can't pick up a drink and tell you what a mole is. Are you serious? I ask a sober person, do you know what a mole is? And they're like, no. Well, I'm fucking drunk as a kite. Even I know what that shit is. So it's about perception. And that's the thing is people perceive a person who likes to be intoxicated as stupid. And I don't think that's fair. I just don't.
Well, I like to. I mean, it's funny because I did not drink much from 18 to 35. I did, and there were certain instances, but basically I didn't keep alcohol around. I didn't drink very often, and but in YouTube, drinking would be a trigger to want to make videos, and one reason is so that I could see myself later, and it's a way of enforcing relativism on yourself.
Yeah.
If you can force yourself into a different frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue for me had nothing to do with YouTube, and I'd had people saying, "Oh, you seem smart and insightful. I'd listen to you, but I want you to tell me that you're sober in general, or tell me which videos." And I'm like, no, because that's a crutch. You're going to believe me if I tell you this background information, because you can't judge what I've said, and that's not acceptable to me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, regardless if you're drunk, I mean, this is the thing is, even if you're drunk or sober, all you're doing is when you're drinking, you're heightening your awareness in certain types of how you're thinking. That's what alcohol does. It heightens awareness in any given state.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a depressing state, then drinking is not a good idea because it will heighten the state of depression. But if you're like me and you, I guess we love thinking about shit, then it will heighten that side of thinking. That makes us come across as pedantic or whatever, So that's what it does to us. Like we're the happy guys when we're drunk. I don't get pissed off when I'm drunk, but if you put me in that frame of mind, then you will see quite well that I will flip into the whole aggressive nature. I'm not aggressive against them. I'm aggressive against the illogical stance you're proposing to my brain. So that's where I come across as aggressive when I'm drunk. It's not the fact that I'm aggressive. It's the fact that you're not making any sense. And I will go over the top with like the whole, making logical sense in your arguments, because I'm a logical person,
Well, I find it difficult to say exactly what the effect is. I think it interacts with people's mental metabolisms in so many different ways. It's hard to characterize, but no matter what it is, sort of as an almost mathematical type formulation, like whatever it's actually doing, whatever it's heightening, it definitely changes sort of the mood of your mind, right? So onto this train track that is different from other states of mind, and you can do the same thing, in different emotional states, like whether you're sad or happy or whatever trivial or subtle state you might be in, and yet it's more obvious, and there is a consistency for a particular person that, okay, this is how I react when I've had a drink. Now, for me, I just had to stop and found out for various reasons. And one reason was because I did end up using it directly as a medicinal, coping mechanism. And
but I don't.
it just wasn't helping me. It was wasting my time.
Yeah, you know what, dude? I don't think that's a wrong narrative to use. I think that's perfectly true because I use mine as a medicinal purpose. I agree that's wrong, just like smoking, which I do as well. But when I drink, it's because I feel that it helps me cope with whatever ailment I feel I happen to have in the sense of me, you know. But at the same time, when people misunderstand why I use it, I don't get drunk because I want to be drunk. Do you get what I'm saying? And people often misunderstand why people like to be on a certain level they are. And, you know, people have emotional pain and physical pain. You know, people smoke weed because they want to get high, and people smoke weed because it's pain relief. You know, there's different ways that humans interact with different substances, and for me, it's always been about me doing what I like to do, and it negates me thinking of certain things that make me feel panicky or whatever. It just slows my body down to where I feel comfortable being in the discussion, because if I was sober, I'd be a lot worse because I couldn't take the shit that you're saying to me because I'd have too many things in my mind, you know?
Yeah, I do think I know that. Let me change topics here a little bit, back to this video. What I was going through, I'm curious to see. Now maybe you won't have any feedback, and that'll be fine to just say I know whatever. But it's sort of this issue. I guess the issue is of morality, and I can't really predict what you would think. So anyway, in this video, I was responding to some comments in this video, and in this video, Snake was kind of, you know, he was opening, he wasn't being purely mocking or mocking really much at all, and he was granting that, okay, maybe there's something to discussing or even teaching philosophy, you know, by vlogging or whatever. And then some guy says, okay, so, and here's what I'm asking for feedback from you on in this change of topic here, or this redirection back. Okay, he says, this guy Muammar, who could have guessed you would turn into, or were all along, a moral faggot? Now he's talking about Snakepliskenist, and now talking about philosophy. Okay, so I said to this guy, you will be destroyed. And Carmel says, this user Carmel, don't know if you're familiar with her.
You know what you need to do? Hold on, before you continue,
Yeah.
right? You see the little thing up above by the microphone thing? Invite people. Just click
Well, how
on
do you
and
do that? I don't know how to do that.
go up to the top thing.
Yeah.
Use your mouse, right, and go up to the top bar. You see that little person with the plus sign?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, click on that
do
now and click friends and circles and no, invite people because it's live. And
well, can you invite people? I'm not going to do it. I don't want to invite anybody. We're finishing up anyway. I didn't tell you, but we're finishing up.
Oh, don't finish up, dude. Fucking hell, I joined because I don't want you to finish. You're live by yourself.
I'm a busy person now. I don't have a lot of time for video.
Oh,
This is supposed to be a 15-minute video. No, just answer my question. Okay, so I told him you will be destroyed, and Carmel asked me if I'm psychotic and says I'm threatening to destroy an anonymous troll. I did not threaten to destroy him. I said you will be destroyed. That's obviously a prediction. If I wanted to say I would destroy him, I would say I am going to destroy you. And frankly, I don't have time to bother destroying this guy. I said you will be destroyed. So the question is that not obvious that I did not threaten but made a prediction? And two, don't you think this guy should be destroyed? Moral faggot. He's using this term, moral faggot. But I don't think you and I have ever talked about morality.
Yeah, but no, but to be this is the point. He's using morality and faggot in kind of this interchangeable. It's okay spiel. I don't see how you can say you're a moral faggot when it would take morals to call someone a faggot in the first place, right?
No, it didn't even occur to me. That train of thought didn't even occur to me.
No, but I mean, if I said you're a faggot, then what are you implying? Is that morality?
Well, it just means you're more pedantic than I am. I just thought, well, you should be destroyed. I'm tired of these people trying.
Yeah, but I think you can. I think you can use destroyed in an argument, other than saying I've had it the same way. When I've said, oh, you're an X or you're a Y, people take that literally. Like, are you being a keyboard warrior? It's like, no, I'm pointing out the obvious. But if you want to tell me that your argument is completely flawed, then that's
right. But I didn't say I will destroy him. I said you will be destroyed. It's obviously a prediction.
No, but
do I not know grammar? Cannot somebody assume?
No, but
I would say I am going to destroy him.
But the you need to imply something, right? And the you, how you would associate that would be the topic. You will be destroyed. I mean, you wouldn't
Well,
say
it's
that
really part of a
otherwise.
trend. It's like libertarians, the anti-tax libertarians.
Okay,
Not the kind I think I am. It's
hold on,
like
hold
I'm
on,
just
hold
as
on. I give you a good example, right? The other day, I
okay.
was on a Republican post. It's on like Mox News or whatever. I don't mean to like shout it out, but it was on a video, Mox News, and I made the point of saying I hate fucking Republicans, they're all scum. Now the reason why I pointed that out is because I wanted to see the reaction of Republicans who watched the video, and
Right.
it
We call
scrolled
that
down.
trolling,
Yes,
by the
that's
way.
what solid house said it. Yeah, it is. But I
Okay,
wanted
go
to
ahead.
see the reaction of all the
Right.
people, and
Right.
I just pointed out it's ironic that I'm not even American, but I'd just like to see your point of view. And someone actually said, I don't believe you're not American. I was just like, why do you think that? It's because he said, well, you wouldn't be engaged in American politics if you're not American. And I said, sadly, we live on a planet. You know, I just
Yeah.
pointed out the obvious. It's like, come on, really.
Wow, that's kind of weird.
It is, but he and whatever his position was is doing the same thing to you. But when you're saying you will be destroyed, you know that I think you meant that from a well, hopefully, knowing you from how I do, I think you meant that from a position of argument. I don't think you meant that in the position of you as a person. I don't think you would do that because I don't
Well,
think
I
that's
mean,
your
your
nature.
position, right? This position, this reactionary position against um, what Snake was saying, which wasn't even particularly a moral argument, but just from this reactionary stance of, oh, you're going to be moral, which doesn't even mean moral in any technical way, but oh, you're going to care about what, it's like, oh, you're going to say when you were wrong, oh, you're going to reach out and actually communicate with people.
Hmm.
It's similar to people that respond, well, geez, I hope you're not going to make amends with everybody you've argued with. That would be boring. These people need to just go away. And I think there is a historical trend, but it's an optimistic prediction, granted. But, screw that. I'm just tired of giving in to people that think that they can be the most offensive, and somehow that means offensiveness will win, because it's like, no, we can be offensive. There can be satire that destroys your lack of character.
Well, that's
Your
why I trolled. I mean, that's why I give the example. I mean, you did the same thing. It's just that you're getting nitpicked about your position that you held. You only said that you're going to be destroyed. That implies that your view on X or Y. I don't think you meant that in a personal way. Or you would have
well,
said
here's the no. I don't
you
think it was personal,
or
but let me
something.
tell. Let's see what you think of this. I do think that basically, when you break moral systems down, like I believe Nazis had a moral system. It's immoral according to my moral system,
Hmm.
but I don't plan to convince them with words. It's like, yeah, a bunch of Nazis,
But that
non-Nazis,
would be
we're
a
probably going to
subjective
have to
view.
fight in the streets, except for I'll wait a little while to see if you implode like Nazis always do. You're going
Yeah.
to screw up and implode, and I won't have to go into the street and fight you with clubs, and you fight me with clubs, because you're going to implode and blow it because you're fuck ups. Okay,
Yeah,
but
because
really,
the
but
logic
there
doesn't
is no
imply.
argument. I'm not planning to convince people that think stealing is okay that it's not okay. I'm planning to have to stop them with more or less a physical, there's a destruction there, and I might just sit to the side and wait for you to destroy yourself. I might try to take an easy route, and I'm not trying to be a tough guy and say that I'm going to go out there and clean everything up myself. So I think you will be destroyed is, a statement of that. It's like this.
Well, you would destroy yourself. I mean, that's the point. It's like, it's self-implication, right? That's what you're trying to imply. It's like you will be destroyed by your own volition.
I think
I mean,
so, yeah, which is
that's
right.
the point of what you make. I mean, I don't see
By
why that
time.
would be a bad statement.
By
Oh
time.
no.
And when you say something is going to be destroyed by time, I think you're kind of saying, look, I'm not going to have to do anything but wait for
Yeah,
your
exactly.
shit to
You will
end.
destroy yourself, and that's exactly the statement you made. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that was any. You can't take that as a personal statement because that's fucking ridiculous
It's
in
kind
my
of
opinion.
funny because I'm fine with Carmel's reaction, because I just, I can't even express the sense in which her approach to things bothers me. But then again, I'm not in the state of mind that I wanted Snake or Rizzle Dizzle to think I was talking to him. And so when he sees that statement and thinks I'm saying I will destroy him, I'm like, hey, dude, I was just making a prediction and it wasn't to you. See, him, I don't want him to, I'm sympathetic to him misunderstanding that as a threat to him, right? Because it wasn't to him. But to the other guy that I made the statement, it wasn't a threat to that other guy either, but I'm not concerned if he thinks of it as a threat. I guess I'm just too relativist. It's like every single exchange, every person that reads a comment or sees a video to me is its own issue.
He's actually, well, Rizzle Dizzle was live 1 hour ago, apparently, on his channel.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just looking at his page right now. 1 hour ago, 18, that was by Big Lundy. 13 hours ago was this whole me being nice biatch, like Jesus.
Day.
Yeah, and he was saying, well, he's actually changed it because he actually put half a day rapes feminist.
Well, he put that in there, but that's just, you know.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Is like, why can't you make a comment?
Shock value.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do like the way Dizzle. I like the way, you know, it's the same way like certain people interact with certain people, but you know, to be a dick all the time is, it kind of reminds me of myself, really, because I was always that kind of way. It's like, oh, let's just be a dick for being a dick's sake. My argument's valid, but I want to just argue the position in any case, and that's kind of wrong to do, you know. In my opinion,
but the alternate side, as somebody that was raised in California in the 70s, and where supposedly we were all supposed to become, you know, Alan Alda's character on MASH, you know, you can be unclear. Actually, Hythloday made a good statement about this. It's like, well, you know, sometimes you have to speak hyperbolically, and yeah, you will retract that hyperbolic, you know, saying all or every, you know, you can retract that. You can be prepared, or just people could assume you would retract that. But if you try to say everything precisely, accurately, and admit every nuance, which I am prone to do, actually, maybe not in this medium, but in my life, you just muddy the water. You don't make a clear message. It's actually better to be as direct as possible, and that's why I was saying it's a relief to just be able to be blunt and direct with people without destroying their ego or confidence or creating some, you know, triggering some.
I think it's better to be direct without destroying the underlying argument or the principle of such, you know. Like,
well, I wish I could be direct and people would just challenge and realize, I will qualify what I said. And people
hold on a minute. No, but hold on, Paolo. I've done that right in our past, but we've always joked about it. I've always said you're wrong, and you always said no, you're stupid. I'm right. But that doesn't take.
No, I only said you're stupid once, but as far
as but whatever, you know. The point is, dude, I've never took that as a personal attack, right? I've took that as about the discussion. Do you know the point? It's like you have to understand, we're individuals. We have our own perceptions of reality, but we can agree on a fundamental principle, and that's the point. If you're gonna make minutiae out of arbitrary shit, then that's gonna deflate. It'll take away really the precept of the conversation. You know, that's why I always enjoyed engaging with you, because no matter what we say to each other, we could insult each other, Pyro, but it wouldn't be the same way with Gary. I would never block you or kick you and say, well, Pyro can't speak because I totally fucking disagree with him, because that just takes away from the argument itself, you know.
I think that's a way. Yeah, that's a way of assessing how. Not that it's the perfect model or anything, but that of our engagements when they got, let's say, acrimonious, was that you didn't close off the possibility of looking for an agreement. And in human nature, at least at this point in history, you know, when people have this acrimony, they get to a point often where they don't want to find an agreement. If they see an agreement, they run away from it because it's like, no, I need to demonize you.
Yeah.
I can't think you're an idiot in this respect and a jerk in that respect, and then agree with you that we should make the world better in this other way. And actually, this is one of my beefs with Gary, which is also the core of why I don't really think of him as a bad person at all, is because, you know, Gary and I agree on a lot of political things, including some esoteric ones like this instant runoff voting and, you know, Condorcet voting and these kinds of things. But I feel that Gary doesn't want to agree on those things because I disagree that, you know, we should have a big red button, kill everybody.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, he thinks that if he's given away any position means that his core values are somehow, I don't know what the word is, devaluated maybe. I think that's the right word. It's just the fact that, like, when we disagreed, we agreed on a load of principles, right? But at the same time as we still held our principles, it doesn't mean that we can't interact on different levels of why that makes no sense to each of us. And
well,
I think Gary cuts that off. I think Gary would be a lot better if he engaged people and said, okay, I will accept this shit as true, but here's my position. He won't do that because what he finds native to Gary is cut that off. I can't listen to it because it would deflate from who I am. You don't know it's about who you are, Gary, you know.
And yet Gary comes back and listens again and again. I mean, when he first started blocking me, I was surprised. He didn't stop listening. He was still watching my videos, and I ended up understanding. It's like I got a button that says "fuck you," so I press it. You know, I'm not stopping the conversation. But I was actually, to be specific with you, I remember, from my side, like a bond that I had of appreciation with you, even when you were saying things that I'm like, "This is crazy." You called me a plank, and you're so wrong, and oh, that's so stupid. But we had this bond, at least from my side. The bond was that you were kind of, well, for lack of a better word, mystical about numbers. Like, you are someone that appreciates. I know you are.
That's and so changed.
Right. So maybe it was the wrong word, but I know you're still whatever the correct word. Probably mystical is a decent word.
Mystical,
you know, infinite digits of pi, and you know, you were really kind of. You were, you know, and we had that bond of like, well, that's really cool. So no matter what else, you know, there's a focus point where we could go by, you know, back to, yeah, but transcendental numbers are really fucking kick-ass. It's weird, huh? You know, and so this was kind of a bond where
we appreciate
we could survive a lot of.
Yeah, I think the thing with us is, right, we hold different positions just like Gary does, but I think we appreciate other people's positions more than Gary does. We're allowing ourselves to think of the opposite side of the equation. We're going, okay, let me put myself in that predicament, you know. And I think Gary would be a lot better off, and you know, the whole, you know, thing that you're doing with Snake right now, if he said, well, let me look at it from Pyro's perspective, because in order to understand an argument, you need to understand someone else's perspective, or you don't get the argument you're even arguing about, really.
Well, I don't think Snake at the moment is having any problems like that at all. I mean, actually, even if he thought that was a threat to him, I don't think he's having a problem getting over that at all. And the funny thing, though, is to go back to Gary, is like, does he not appreciate other people's positions? I mean,
I think he does more than he likes to admit.
Exactly. Because look, it's 7 years later. He's been talking to Thou Art That, one of these phantasmagoricals, bitching about his ideas and watching his videos for 6 or 7 years, whatever it's been. Just like me, somebody that would out and out say, "Hey, I really appreciate Thou Art That. It's great stuff." And Gary would go, "It's all bullshit," but he's actually paying attention to it, and isn't what you value. I mean, you could say I don't value it because it's bullshit, but if you keep spending attention, on it, I think there's some value there. And if it's a popular movement, you can say, oh, it's because it's so popular, I've got to keep fighting it. But Thou Art That is not, you know, on CNN spreading a message.
This is the thing with Gary, is so invested in life. He hates it. That's the point with Gary. And, you know, when I try and explain that to him, he loves life to the point where he detests it. He has no understanding of. He reminds me of kind of a theist, really, in the sense that.
Sometimes he admits that, right? I've called him on that exact thing, and he's like, "Yeah, I admit I'm an addict. I hate my drug, life."
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, well, if you try and say to him, your message is not wrong, right? Because it's not. It's message of futility. It's not wrong, but it's how you present it that makes him wrong. The
Well, the
futility
only thing I
aspect
think
of
is wrong with it is I think he actually has some politically active
I,
views that
I
he
think it's
should keep
emotional.
pursuing.
I think it's emotional. I think Gary's whole being for hating life is unfairness. I think he's
Right,
seen the world for what it is, and he doesn't like it. But
right.
that doesn't mean it's logical. That's where me and you disagree.
Hmm.
Life is not meant to be yes or no. That's that's not what life
Well,
is.
I just think that we don't
It's
know.
the wrong axiom.
We
It's
can't
the wrong
focus
axiom.
we can't focus down on just one issue. So my
Mhm.
point is that, okay, that could be one of your issues, but don't forget the other prongs of the attack. So if you realize that they need clean water in Africa, that we should upgrade to democracy 2.0 and have a mathematically better voting system, or you think local politics is important and you want to expose what's going on in your local, wait, what do they call it? Whatever they call the
I don't
towns
know. I'm
over
not
there.
American. I don't know.
No, no,
Town
no, it's
hall.
some Britishy term actually over there. Hamlet,
Fuck
or
no.
no, it's not a Hamlet. It's something like this they
Fuck
call
no.
it.
It's fucking. I don't know. Whatever.
But
Anyway.
anyway, you have these other issues that, hey, let's try all four of these ideas I came up with. So the only thing I find really wrong with Gary, because I personally can tolerate the belligerence because of things we've just discussed, it might not be appropriate with everybody. I don't, some people shouldn't have to be exposed to that, but I personally am fine with it. It's just that he's focused so much on the one prong. I think that's the biggest deal. And then the other thing is just the intolerance. It's like if I go into your tiny chat room, I understand I might get kicked in certain cases, but if I just get kicked because of some other conversation, it's like I don't have time. I like to plan a little bit more than that. It's like if I say yes, I'll take some time and go in someplace, I don't want to just automatically get kicked for something like that
No, but
because you become so single-minded.
yeah, I also think that that's disingenuous to other people. I think that if you're not gonna let people voice their opinion, especially with his philosophy of you know life's shitty, etc., then
Mhm.
at least let people voice their opinion who are in the same situation. Gary seems to think we're not in the situation he finds himself in, and I think that's very disingenuous. We're in the same position Gary's in. We just come to different conclusions. His conclusion may be X, but it doesn't mean that X is completely true.
Well,
And just that it's not.
I've never successfully explained to him that I actually agree, because you and I both agree that the world is kind of shitty. I say that it's because of this slavery situation that we've been dealing with for what, 2 to 10,000 years. But the thing is, I believe in a right to choice, right? And that people have to decide for themselves. You can't, just because, like, I believe in the right to suicide, that doesn't mean I'm going to tell people they should commit suicide.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a personal choice.
but Gary's counter to that, I guess, Pyro, would be you don't have the right to. I think Gary's point is we're going to impose suffering on other people, right? But imposing suffering, that's an imposition of the mind as well, because my imposition might be that I don't think that the world isn't suffering. So therefore, he's a hypocrite. Not, I wouldn't say in a bad way, but what I'm saying is the thing he's saying is
Well,
that
the
the
world
world.
isn't suffering. See, I agree with that. I just think that it's because humans are oppressing humans. And I mean, the main thing for me is that I'm not going to give in to those guys. Show me a better system where there isn't obvious slavery and oppression, where
But
people don't have to work in sweatshops in Bangladesh, and then I'll see if life looks like it could be worth living. I'm
no,
not going
but
to look at the Thomas Jefferson slave plantation world and go, oh, we should end it all. No, we should end that slave plantation.
well, that's the point of the imposition. Gary doesn't accept he's got an imposition to think the way he does, and what we're trying to,
Wait,
I
what do you
guess,
mean? That he's causing an imposition? What do you mean?
well, he's causing an imposition by his perspective of how life works. He says life shouldn't exist in the universe because it creates pain, which is the whole. David Benatar situation, asymmetry. But if you believe in that, then that's a position that you're going to take. Value itself is derived by a position. It doesn't come from anywhere else. So when I try to explain to Gary that you're flawed in your logic, is because there is no such thing as pain and suffering until you imply there is. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the world is the way it is, but until we apply
Probably don't.
certain parameters to it, then, I mean, look at it like medicine, for instance. Let's say malaria. Why would human beings try to eradicate malaria? That would be an imposition of negativity, right? As far as Gary's concerned, if the universe is shit. But if we can fix what he implies is always broken, then that implies that the broken is not
Well,
always
but what about the
broken.
antinatalist argument? Gary doesn't push it a lot, but it's definitely present there. That and I've seen him mention it, but other people, other antinatalists mention a lot. It's just the fact of mortality. It's like, if you're not going to live forever,
There's no
why
point.
live at all? I mean,
Well, I mean, for me, okay, this is my personal view. I don't know if people accept it or not, and I hope you make this like an upload or whatever, because I think we're having a good convo. I know you're
it's live right
busy.
now.
Okay, well, what I would say is that the imposition in Gary's case of why we should live, or what's the meaning, I don't think that is a reasonable argument. I don't think there's a necessity to have reason for existence. I think
Mhm.
that's a fallacy in of itself. I accept the fact that I exist. I don't need a reason to exist. I think
Mhm.
that's you looking for an existential thing that doesn't exist. If
But
anything,
what?
you need to
Now I have my
justify
own
that.
question, but I'm trying not to. I mean, my own answer, but I'm trying not to insert it in here. But what about the fact that we're mortal? You're going to die.
Yeah,
Does
but
that? Why does that not lead you to question the value of existing in the first place?
because of well, okay. So if I'm going to die, the point of life is not about life or death. It's existence itself. It's the continuation of such. It's
Yeah.
just like saying, well, why do atoms spin around? It's like, why do we understand the two split experiment? Why do we understand the confusion of the universe? We don't understand it because it's inevitable in its
Right.
conclusion. The inevitability of our lack of understanding is what keeps us going. So therefore, if we are to survive in the universe, it's not the fact that we need to know the answer to the question, it's whether the question itself is important, which gives rise to motion and physics. Our continual existence in the universe is more important
Mhm.
than finding out why we spin around as what we do, or the interaction of human beings.
Well, I see. Yeah, and I think. See, I mean,
Give me
I
a
would
point.
say that mortality is actually required. I don't see how. Well, Snake brought up this idea of, what did he
Mm,
call it? The theory of commodity or whatever. He has one
mm.
life, so it's valuable. The thing is, if you were going to live forever, then how could each second be of value? And there's actually sort of, I don't know literally, but there's like an infinite or a multitude of examples like that, where really, it's the fact that you have an individual life. And, I mean, protozoa go on living until the environment kills them. They go on and on and on and on and on. I think that would not work for a brain that creates meaning. I think that you can't have a novel that never ends,
Well,
right?
you
You can't
can.
have a story. No, it's not a novel. You can have something and it could be okay, but even if you do that,
No, I, I,
turn the
I, I
movie
think,
up
I
way
think, I
loud
think,
because I'm too
no,
loud.
no, no. All right, go and turn that shit off. Go on, go and turn it off. But what I
Well, I'm
was
not
gonna
going to turn
say,
that.
no, no. But what I was gonna say is, I think humans perceive the universe in a totally whack way. I think
Hmm.
morality is important in the sense of, well, living and dying, and I think I will agree with Snake there that, you know if you was to classify my life as, um, I'm going to die just like you, and fucking everybody else on planet Earth, then I would think that was special. Why? It's not special because I'm gonna die. It's special because the moment in time which I exist is special,
Yeah,
and
it's
I
a
can
thing.
give.
If it
That's
had
why
no
we.
boundaries, how could it be a thing? It would be like everything, and then
No, but
everything's all
don't
mixed
you
together.
no, but don't you think that's why we reproduce as human beings? I mean, some of us don't, and that's where I agree with Gary. Some of us are mindless to that thing, but I think the understanding of what we are and our place in the universe, it would be kind of stupid for us to just go, well, fuck it.
Well, do
I
you
don't
consider
understand.
yourself a moral person?
I don't like the word moral only because it derives from the biblical aspect, but I would say I'm, yeah, well, I'm respectful of other people's opinions, to say the least.
Right.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
but
say
it's
what's
just been
moral.
fouled by religion. It really goes back before any of
Well,
our
well, you know,
Judeo-Christian religions.
that's why I'm very careful on using the word. I would say I'm respectful of other human beings' opinions, but I would also say that I think nature
Well, what's
is
another word for that?
a decent one. That's why I'm trying to very hard
Yeah.
to. I'm trying hard to describe my opinion,
Well, that's
but
why I still use the word moral, because it's like, you know what? I don't know a synonym that can be, I
yeah,
don't know
exactly.
another word you
Applied
can shove it in there. So I'd
to.
rather just say, let's
Okay,
define morality a certain way.
if,
But I understand why people are hesitant,
mm,
because they've been kind of raped by morality, which is like,
which
wait,
is
I can't
biblical.
like morality after that.
Okay, well, if I was to say morality as a thing, I would say it's an evolutionary trait to survive. I don't think it's got
Hmm.
other traits to it. I would say morality is the basis of survival. If you was to look at it in an
Yeah.
arbitrary way.
There's sort of the word respect, maybe has some, could be used instead. I mean, if you have
Mm.
respect, just in general, you don't say for a particular thing, then, because that's kind of what you're saying. It's like, look, I have a respect for existence, for myself, the other things that I'm interacting with, my relationship with them, you
Yeah.
know,
You
but
can't
of course,
discount
it's
them.
not the
You
same
can't
kind of
dis.
name.
I think I can't discount other people's um existence. I think I have to acknowledge their own existence, and how I deal with that is between me, them, and the other. I would like to find a common ground to existence because that's the only thing that makes any sense to me. I know we exist, and no one can take that away from me because that's a truth,
Yeah,
regardless if you
exactly.
believe in
I'd
God
like to
or
find a
not.
common ground of existence, and have some shared idea of how we can treat each other as humans, as
I mean,
mammals, as,
it
as members
sounds
of
new
the
agey and shit.
ecosystem.
It does sound new agey, but I'm not trying to make it new agey. I just think
No,
that
yeah.
if
Well,
we
I think we have to wade in
if
there. It
we
all sounds kind of bullshit if you don't force
I
it.
mean, if we acknowledge other people or individuals and we respect them for that, you know, being who they are because they've lived in a different environment, then you need to understand basic things. Evolution would be one in the sense of we are better than, well, I wouldn't say better, but we understand the reality in which we are better than a lion versus a gazelle. Okay, we can empathize with a lion and a gazelle. We know why a lion eats a gazelle because it requires it to do it, right? But we can think about that in a different way. That's what makes us special. This is how we apply logic in the sense of human beings. It doesn't apply to anything else because we're the special guys, right? So
Well,
how
what
you
do you mean
apply.
by that?
Well, what I
We
mean
the
by that
humans?
is, well, no, what I mean by that is life itself. I don't think life is a thing that's arbitrary or an anomaly. I think life is a requirement of the universe, or it wouldn't exist. I don't think the
Yeah,
universe makes mistakes. I think we are conscious for a reason. It
yeah,
doesn't require God. It just requires acknowledgement and humility at the
yeah.
same time.
Well, it's here in this physical universe, so yeah, it somehow is a physical process that is as inevitable as the formation of galaxies and planets. I mean, that's sort
Well,
of a
what?
deduction you can make from the boundary conditions, which is actually my ultimate and probably too esoteric argument against antinatalism, is if you push the button, you kill all the humans, well, then you got the current chimpanzees re-evolving into humans. You kill all the animals
Well, no,
because you care about that suffering, well, then you have the rocks and the carbon and the methane
no, but this is the
creating
point.
humans again, and it just takes
No, but
A
this
billion
is
years
the
to get back
point.
here.
I think this is the point when Gary says to kill all life in the universe, he's not actually killing life. He's actually saying the universe doesn't exist.
Hmm.
He's actually saying press a button for the universe not to be what it is, and that
Yeah,
it seems illogical to me.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
I would
press
agree.
a magical button for existence to not exist. That's
Right.
like one of my most famous quotes was Anthony Hamilton, which says that the universe existed and man said it was a bad idea. It's kind of ironic to say the least.
Yeah.
Your
Well, I'm
perception.
gonna go. Wait, we should leave it right there because that's great. Because I gotta go. Oh wait, who else showed up?
Oh God, see, you can't go now, dude. People
My
are
God,
showing up. Tommy, what's up, Tommy?
Tommy, is it just a graphic? That's not the real Tommy.
Tommy from the Bronx. It is. It's that's his name. Tommy, your microphone's low. Most famous quotes was Anthony Hamilton. Um, what are you saying, Tommy? Your microphone's really low. I know you said Anthony Hamilton, so.
Well, look, I definitely have to go to the bathroom, so I'm gonna take a break. And if you
All right,
guys
we'll
are
go
still
take a
here
piss.
in a few
Just don't
minutes, I'll
quit.
come
Don't
back.
just don't quit.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
leave it open.
All right, good stuff. Okay, Tommy, what's you saying, Tommy? Just fix your mic, Tommy, so we can hear you properly, dude. I'm gonna go and take a piss too, actually. By the way, this is live. If you don't know, feel free to add me. Well, I wouldn't say add, but check out my videos at Styzor on YouTube and Pyro, obviously Pyro314 and Tommy from the Bronx. So you can add us all and engage. But yeah, Tommy, if you want to say something, hold up. We'll fix your mic because you're really low. All right, come on. What was you gonna say, Terry? Always on the phone. So you still here? Tommy from the Bronx. What? You still here, bitch? Come on, nigga. Ah. Alright, finally, I upped to some alcohol in that little fucking pot there, Mr. Peru. Welcome back, Peru.
Hello. So Tommy, did Tommy talk?
No, he said he's on a fucking phone call or some shit.
But it was actually Tommy from the Bronx.
Apparently yes.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I can't leave yet. Tommy's here.
Yeah.
And there's somebody in chat too. Let's see what that is.
Invite them in.
I'm on the phone. It's me. See, I don't. Now Tommy got kind of popular for a while when he was tending to his channel, but see, I don't base my evaluation of the great YouTubers of the classical era based on popularity, but I do on their creativity, and I still think that the Tommy from the Bronx series was brilliant. I mean, a series developed with people all over the world and the U.S., you know, and with green screen and everything, and that was pretty fucking awesome.
Don't lie, it was shitty.
No, it was great.
Don't lie, it was shit.
It was good. No, you misunderstand. It wouldn't matter if it was shit. Just the medium. It's the invention of a medium. You have no appreciation.
Oh.
My understanding is that's because you're from Liverpool and you just don't think these things.
Shut up, dude. Shut up.
That was another thing I learned from my interaction with you was, you know, the insults that are laid on Liverpool.
No, but see, that's the point.
Home of the Beatles, which I always thought that made Liverpool the greatest place in the UK.
No, hold on.
Not everybody thinks that.
Yeah, they don't, because, you know, it's interpretation. But that's the point, right? And I guess that's where it was coming from before, in the sense of like how we structure arguments and shit like that. It's like it needs an X, you know, it needs the axiom. You know what I mean? It's like if we're gonna have a debate, it needs an axiom. But I think people get a bit more emotional, and they kind of forget the axiom of the arguments. And I think we do axioms very well, actually, Paro, when we're debating stuff. I think we do the whole axiom thing, and we can negate the whole "you're a cunt" kind of shit.
I love axioms, but they're a dime a dozen is the thing.
Of course they are, dude.
Yeah, you just make them up, throw them away, make some more up. That's like the whole point.
Yeah, but the whole point of axioms is they start at the same place. It's like algebra.
The thing is, this reminds me of my other major miscalculation of personality, that because Tommy brought this up in his recent video, that he actually made a fucking video recently, and he was mentioning Hard Case owns you. Now I don't know. You familiar with Hard Case?
Nope.
Oh my God. That is another classic story, just everything that happened to him. But I miscalculated. Again, I thought that he would not get butthurt about certain things, but he definitely did, and to the point where, yeah, I love him or hate him, I pretty much hate him. And the reason is because another great YouTuber was this guy called the Boring Dispatcher who died, I guess, of a heart attack or something, and the hard case was, even after he died, Hardcase insisted that he pwned the Boring Dispatcher, and I have no respect for the fact that he didn't realize that the Boring Dispatcher
He's dead.
pwned him. No, not that. That's fine. But just that,
No, it's
actually
not.
was the
That's
other
not
way around.
fine. How is that
It is.
even remotely close to fine?
No, it's
That's
okay.
shitty. That's like me saying Jesus
No.
is right.
No, it's like
wrong.
when, Nixon died and everybody in the U.S. is like, oh, let's pretend we all like Nixon for a couple days. It's like, no, fuck Nixon still. So, you can go ahead and even mock the dead, and I don't have to agree with you, and I hold that a little bit of relativism.
Hold on. I don't agree on mocking the dead. I do agree on actually principles of why the dead was wrong. I think if you was to say that the dead were correct because they're dead, that's just as, this is just annoying as mocking them. If you get my point.
Well, there was an element to the fact that the guy passed on. It's kind of an easy time to go ahead and, maybe be a little more truthful and humble about, your interaction with them.
Well, they can't speak for themselves, and what's that old ass saying? Is you can't speak ill of the dead. It's not that you want to speak ill of them. It's just the fact they're not there to defend their own position. I think that's a very bad line to take. It's
the Boring Dispatcher would do things like he would make replies. He was kind of a reply artist. So you get a viral video like, who was that one guy that was drunk eating a hamburger, and his kid uploaded it to the internet. Some famous guy, the guy from Baywatch, whatever that guy's name is. And he did a mocking video, and he did some satire and stuff. And so that was kind of his thing, which is like, well, I enjoyed it. Yeah, David Hasselhoff had this thing. And so those were the kinds of things that the Boring Dispatcher would reply to. And I found it entertaining, but there wasn't that much substance to it. But right before he died, he started engaging with sort of the philosophic community on YouTube. And I was really looking forward to that. And instead he died.
Yeah, but don't you think the reason why he engaged in it is because he knew he was dying?
No, I don't think he knew at all. He was just a young 30s, and he was pretty obese, and so he ended up with heart problems, and I think it was a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going from my own perspective here. I don't mean to endorse this other guy, but from my perspective is when I nearly died last year, I wouldn't say my perspective changed, but it reinforced the fact that, like, if God exists, then why would he inflict me with such pain? Like, why would God do that? If I'm ultimately about to die. In
one of his newer videos, Snake made a point that I really endorse, which is like talking about the character of God is kind of silly since God doesn't exist.
Why
is God such an asshole? Because he doesn't exist.
Yeah, but God is an asshole because people exist, and this is the point I try and make to people who try and invoke logic, in the sense that, like, I just been in a good conversation with a few other people before I joined this one, and a theist was saying, well, there's no such thing as logic because you can only get logic if God exists, and it was like, huh? How'd you get logic from God? Before God existed, there was logic, obviously. So I didn't understand this.
Well, see, that's where you and I disagree. I just think logic is an invention of man. I mean, it's a great thing. I studied it. I use it a lot. But
okay, then. Oh, all right then. Because this is a good. This is actually a good point. So, how do we differentiate how logic applies to reality? Now, you just said logic is invented by man. Is that correct? I don't want to misquote.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, if you look that word up in a dictionary and shit like that, like, for me, logic doesn't imply that. So how do we both misrepresent what we imply to be logic? How did that arise?
Well, what do you mean? How did logic arise?
No, how we both come to different conclusions of what logic is, right? So,
yeah, probably.
well, you just made
Well,
that
because you're an ignorant
idealism.
monkey and I've evolved past the point you're
Yes,
stuck
okay,
at.
whatever. Don't get funny. But what I'm saying is like, how can we both derive as logic as a something, right? How can we both say that Coca-Cola is
Bec-
Coca-Cola?
because the brain is embodied, it's in a body, and the logic is an extension of how the brain works the body, its
Hmm.
sense and motor functions. And
Yeah, but
so,
hold on then. So therefore, then, if you say that's true, then wouldn't the same thing we apply as logic be the very same thing that we are?
well, yeah, and there's a fundamental
Yeah.
thing, and that's
Well,
why I
that's what
can
I'm
go ahead
saying.
and praise logic. But on the other hand, why does logic break down in some of our modern science?
Well,
You
it
know,
doesn't.
it's not that well. I mean, it
Well, it
kind of
doesn't.
seems
No,
to the
okay,
fact that
how?
that one thing goes through two slits, or that your
But
sense of time can be different from my sense of time, and
yeah,
it
but
not
that's
be
not
just a
logic.
perspective.
Yeah, but that's
Well,
not
some
logic
people
though.
think that that's illogic, and then we change the logic to go, oh, but that's reality, that's nature, so logic has to change. That to me is just
No,
proof that logic is a creation.
no, I don't think. Well, okay, we've got different perceptions of what logic is. We've defined that already. I think for me personally, logic is the universe in how we understand it. Like the laws of physics, the laws of logic are exactly the same things. It's how we deterministically, without a shadow of a doubt, how we see the universe. I think maybe what you're saying is the perception of logic applies differently. The world was always round, right? It was always round. Because we thought it was flat doesn't mean that logic doesn't apply,
But see,
correct?
that's totally different than logic. Logic to me, I mean, and maybe this is just semantics, but the logic to me is
No,
how
it's
you
not. I
get
see what
from
you're
one
saying.
idea to another, right? It's not the empirical fact of what the geometric shape of the Earth is.
Well, no, no, but in order for you to have logic would imply that it's a series of methods.
I
That
don't
would
really
be
understand why anybody would say that the Earth ever was flat. It's not flat. It's
no,
all
no,
bumpy.
but no,
It's
no,
bumpy.
no. It's
At the
whatever.
most, it's
No,
flat-ish.
hold on. Yeah, it's not flat. It's technically round. Well, it's technically like an egg, but
No,
whatever.
it's not round
It,
either. It's
yeah, it's not.
ellipsoidal
It
and
looks
only
like an
roughly.
egg. Well, it looks like an egg because of gravity. It bulges in the middle. But the
No,
point
it
is,
doesn't
right?
look like an egg because an egg is more narrow at one end and lacks
And
the
then yeah,
symmetry
well,
of an
no,
ellipsoid.
don't get smarty pants with me here. We could do the sun's black shit. You was trying to argue the same shit, and that would be my
That's one of my
position.
favorite videos ever still. I still
Dude,
rewatch
that was
that one.
awesome. Whatever. Anyway, point being is,
Okay.
what I'm saying is right. If we understand logic, would you say logic is objective or subjective? Would you
Well, I'm
think it can
saying
be
that,
both?
well, okay, I wouldn't want to say that it was both. I think there's some that dichotomy is not entirely accurate. Okay, so there's an element of, I mean, logic definitely applies to the phenomena we experience, right? The phenomena is the stream of senses we
Existence.
get, and logic applies to that because I'm saying it was a system invented to analyze the stream of perceptions we have. So, of course, it applies to it. That's what it was derived from.
Okay. Well, in my understanding, logic is the reason why you perceive the perception you do, because it's not a perceptive thing. It's objective. Like gravity, for instance. Gravity is a logical thing because it applies without reason, like mathematics. It doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, it would still apply. That would be a logical system, like the universe. The universe is a
Hmm,
logical system. So if we said we invented it, then that would mean that the universe is not logical.
I see.
Invention you get what I'm saying? So
Yeah, no, but it makes me think that this is a semantic thing because to me, I have this technical idea of logic that it's going from one logos to another logos. It's the rules of inference that connect different sets of statements.
yeah, but
It's
yeah,
not the
yeah,
empirical
that's
or what
true.
philosophers would call the synthetic facts of nature, which are that, gravity exists whether you admit it or not. That's to me a
No,
different
but no,
thing.
but
So it's
no,
more
but the,
like something I'd call empirical, or
no, but the inference itself would be logical. Is the point? The inference between two. You can't get from A to B. Is that what you just said, right?
well, you're saying that logic, you relate logic to this idea that there is a real world that has its own truths, regardless of what kind of a mind. For example, they're the same for another mammal, or for a bird, or for an
Yeah.
insect, or for a stone that can't conceive of any of the patterns in nature, presumably, that there's still gravity. Right. So
Yes.
you're talking about that as logic.
The
And
absolute.
that to me is something that is not, that we don't have good words for that.
Well, what we do, and that's why I say the words logic. I mean, logic for me is how one understands measurements as, um, regardless of how we interpret the measurement, you are using measurements as a foundation for how one measures stuff. So the outcome isn't relative, really.
Mhm.
It's how the fact that you're still measuring. Do you get my point?
Yeah, I think I do, but I think I do, and I focus in on that the following way. It's like, because I'm philosophical enough that I've accepted these arguments that we could be in the dream of Vishnu, or we could be in the Matrix. That's not the
It
that's
wouldn't
not the
change
key point.
anything.
No, so the key point of what you were calling this logical world, or this external world, what we call external, is actually the world between us and other agents, right? Other sentient creatures, other minds.
Which would be objective more so than
Yeah.
perspective,
So
right?
we have evidence that there's something like that, but only based on the assumption that, it's not a solipsistic universe. I'm not the only thing that exists. And it kind of gets back to this issue we were talking about before, about what could we call morality. Well, you could have a respect for other entities, other living, other people,
Things,
other
yeah.
other
But
personalities, other living
that
things.
wouldn't be morality in the way that
Once
we
you
describe it.
No, but once you accept through respect for these other creatures, like among human society, if you don't grant other people have agency, they will whack you upside the head. So there's actually physical threats associated to why it might be a good idea to appreciate that other people also want a piece of pie, and other people actually exist and have their desires, whether it was an illusion or not. And then once you grant that they are actual full agents, they actually have their own will, then there's a space between you that's shared,
Well,
right?
yeah,
Like
I
we
mean,
have a
well, no,
clock
that's
and we can
true.
both look at the clock and compare our sense of time or
Yeah, but
whatever. And
we
that's what you're calling this objective world, this external world. It's this world between us is all we really know, and you're calling that a logical necessity, right? So that's different. Like when I say logic is a creation, I'm talking about this mathematical side of logic. The rules of inference that we've figured out. Right.
we didn't figure it out. It's what made us. We just understood it as to be true. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like before humans ever came about in the universe, there was always logic. That's why we used logic as beings because that's what
But I mean,
created
like what?
us.
People say things, so logical truths, like what? The law of cause and effect? Or the law of identity? I mean, what? There is no logical truth that really holds up. They all need to be
Well,
improved and are constantly improved.
it holds up because there's no indifference in the sense of logic. There's nothing to discount the reality we live in. There's no way we can ever, as human beings, be in a third perspective of being human. There is no way to do that. None at all. We can't imagine another universe because this is the only universe we experience. No matter what idea we come up with, it will always be based on the same parameters of our existence. We can come up with every single claptrap idea, like multiverses, but it won't affect the fact that you're still stuck in the same place. That's
Well,
logic.
kind of like we can imagine an imaginary creature like a unicorn, and lo and behold, it's built out of a horse and a horn, both things that
Yeah.
exist,
Yeah.
right?
You can't think of shit that doesn't exist unless it does exist, and that becomes quantum mechanically troublesome, so to speak. A unicorn didn't think of human beings, right? We thought of the unicorn. It didn't happen the other way around. A unicorn could not
Yeah.
possibly exist without the human being coming up with the idea of a unicorn. So therefore, the unicorn is a logical statement of our own perception of reality. Do you get my point? You can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
A beer
But,
can, a Budweiser can't exist unless we know what Budweiser is. A Budweiser could never imagine human beings in the same way we imagine a Budweiser can. It's impossible to do that.
I do understand that. I think I'm making a similar, but it's also somewhat distinct point that, and I wonder if you would agree, because this is what I was taking you to be saying, is that anything a human mind imagines that isn't real, let's say it doesn't have some correlate in what we call the real world there, it's still built out of things that are real to us. You know, it's built out of colors, and what those things are things that just our body is able to, you know, if we had black and white vision like they say dogs have, then unicorns would be black and white. You know, I mean, it's like we are creating things out of the colors and sounds and elements that we got from our bodily experience.
Well, this is the point of how we perceive the universe to be. We perceive the universe to be arbitrary. We are the measuring stick. You should know this already, quantum mechanics. We perceive the universe to be exactly what it should be, because our perception makes it what it is.
See, I don't like the sound of that.
Well, the universe...
Tommy made a comment a long time ago now, about 13 minutes ago, that he says, if the person was an asshole, I have no problem mocking the dead for the asshole-ish things they did while they were alive.
He's basically saying the same shit we was.
Am I expected to praise Hitler just because he died? Yeah, no.
No, you're not, but you could appreciate
Or Henry Kissinger, may he rest in peace, if he would only just...
No, but I think the thing is, you can appreciate the fact that he was alive. And he changed our perception of reality. Doesn't mean that you agree with what Hitler did.
I'll bet Tommy remembers the boring dispatcher. He was
anyway,
huge. He was in the pre-history days of YouTube. Yeah, see.
Yeah, but I mean, back to the point though. For me,
he was great. He's probably the greatest YouTuber ever, I would say.
No, but I mean, back to the point of what we was discussing is, for me, logic is the understanding of objectivity. Of we can all agree that certain things affect us regardless of how we assume it to be. That's logic for me, and that's what logic means.
Yeah, but you keep using these words about how we are perfectly right or something.
No, I didn't never use the word perfectly right, but what I was saying is you can have a perception of what's right and wrong, but that doesn't mean that logic is right or wrong, because logic doesn't have a right or wrong. Logic doesn't... That's not what logic is.
Well, see, to me, there's all these different kinds of logic, for example, right? It's like, is the Cartesian coordinate system right or wrong? It's like, well, you can use whatever coordinate system you need for the job at hand. You can use graph paper with a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch or some weird metric thing.
But that's not logic, though, Pyro. Logic is the method. It's not the means to an end. It's actually the interaction itself, like you said.
But did you see the human mind uses logic? It uses this emotional logic.
No, it doesn't, because it's still based on logic. The rationality of a human being is still based on the perception of the same thing that we all work on. That's logical. The outcome is not the point of what logic tries to prove. Logic is the fact that you can do the exact same shit and come up with the total opposite answer. You're still using the same method, like science. It's a methodology, right? We understand the universe to be X, so the outcome would be Y. That's logic. There is no in-between path, because we decide whether that's true or not based on perception. Though, like I said, the world was always round. We perceived it to be Y when it was X. It was still always logical that the world was round. It's whether we perceive it to be or not. That's different, and I can agree to that statement.
Well, but do you see what I'm saying about the semantically that's not logic. That's an empirical
But
truth.
logic
We're
isn't.
saying that there's truths, that there's
It's fun. Yeah,
to
I
me, I
do.
just see it as a pattern in our perceptions. And if we get enough perceptions, the only thing that it correlates to the perceptions we will have had is that the Earth is this ellipsoidal, is this round shape, right? If we get enough perceptions, then it is necessary that those
No, but
perceptions properly analyzed, and properly is, is the dangerous word, but by
well,
any
it doesn't matter what the answer is. What gets you there is logic itself. Logic is like equals in a mathematical equation. 1 plus 1, and then I stop. If I put equals, that would be logic. It's what
Oh,
it's
now
what
I
you.
remember some of the things we disagreed about so strongly
Yeah, see,
because,
we're
see, I
getting there now.
disagree.
We're getting
Yeah,
there.
because you do have this more fundamental idea of what math and logic actually, where they actually come from. Whereas I believe that things, abstract things like sets, they're just from containers, which the body evolved to understand a container. A simian or a dog can understand a container to a certain degree. This little
Yeah, but they
divot
can.
in the rock holds water. I go there and sometimes there's water in there and I drink it. And they understand, and we evolved millions of years, and then we abstract that into a set. And
But they
really, it's
require
not.
parameters. Don't you agree they require parameters even though we don't think of them? They must have parameters.
But it's
How did
based
we
on our
get here?
experience as an animal, because now I'm not saying it's true, but like in quantum mechanics right now, the quantum information theory in this holographic universe, there's sort of this idea that space as we understand it is not really arranged X and Y and Z the way we understand it. That
Mm.
all the information inside a black hole is actually stored at the surface. But inside it, things could be experiencing themselves as three-dimensional things inside the three-dimensional volume of the black hole, but really they're just information encoded on the surface. And because of the way the information is encoded and interacts, it's the same functional equivalence. It's
So,
functionally
well,
equivalent
yeah.
to being a
Well, I mean,
three-dimensional thing inside. So what's the real shape? Well, there is no real shape. What there is a pattern of interaction that might as well be considered three-dimensional space.
the thing with black holes is, and any, if you look at thermodynamics, and I'm sure you have, because you've been knowledgeable like me in that respect. If you look at entropy, what does entropy require to destroy the universe? I'm sure you can answer that pretty simply.
Well, that's the whole black sun thing. We were getting into entropy a lot,
Exactly.
but I'm on a whole new idea that these quantum information scientists, which is really taking over, the quantum computer guys are taking over quantum mechanics, and there's this idea that entropy is just kind of a measurement or an idea of information you don't have. When you lose information, it's entropy. So like Susskind, the Stanford guy, he actually goes so far as to say that the reason your computer puts off so much heat is because it's throwing away information.
Yeah, it is. That's the truth.
Yeah.
It's energy, which is information, and
Yeah.
this is the
And
point.
if you put
But
a thermometer into a hot container, right, to find out what the temperature is in there, and you pull the thermometer out and you find out the temperature, you will have reduced the temperature in there. You will have reduced the entropy
because you
in there,
pull that
rather.
out, because you
You will
pull
have
that out.
turned it into
Yeah,
information.
but that's the same thing as that's the whole reason why when we did the whole, fucking electron shit, it's the same thing. How do we get to a point where being the measuring stick doesn't apply anymore? It's not possible. So what we should do is apply that to physics and say that we are the measuring stick. And if we do that, then entropy itself falls apart because it requires energy to destroy the universe the
It's
way that
okay.
we know it.
Do you see the chat? Okay, so Tommy's brought up another thing. Going back, we get to rewind a little bit again. So the Earth may not have always been round, and I think the point he's making is, what if gravity changed? Nobody really knows that the laws of physics are static. They could have been changing, especially if we're in this weird holographic universe. Maybe gravity was different, and he's not saying it was flat, but maybe it was, you know, oval or a disc, or maybe it was egg-shaped, like you said.
You could say why. I mean, this is the point with Tommy. Why aren't planets square? Why isn't a planet square?
Exactly. No, I like that version of it because it's like you were saying that, well, logically, they would have to be round because, you know, there's a common sense reason because, you know, it's all equidistant from the center. If you have pretty much any kind of gravitational system, it's going to have to reach an equilibrium. And, you know, a cube is not a really good equilibrium state of equilibrium. Yeah, but you can't know. It could be there are certain kinds of mathematical systems where there could be a cubical planet was at equilibrium, and so I don't believe that's the case, but it does contradict what you're saying that it was always round. All we know is that it's round now based on what we've seen in our experience of collective perceptions.
No, but that's like saying the Fibonacci sequence is wrong. I mean, come on, dude. We are never going to find a cuboid planet. That's not the universe we live in. Maybe in a different dimension we might find a cuboid.
But you were talking about how we can't really imagine another universe,
well,
right?
No, hold on a minute.
Whoa. I bet I can play with some math.
Wait, dude. We can imagine every type of universe, and the reason why we can is because we don't know what the universe in fact is. That's the reason why we imply not knowing. It works both ways. In order for us to guess would mean that we don't know.
See, we probably disagree here because this is where it's important, these semantics that I'm talking about, because we say, okay, we don't know what the universe is. As a skeptic, like in this ancient sense, we're not even trying to know what it is. We're trying to find out how it appears to be. No, yeah, what the patterns are, which is another way of putting it is how it appears to be. So in a way, I know what the universe is for a human being. It's a stream of sensory perceptions. It is it has time and a bunch of different sense spaces: color, sound, pain, you know, a sense of time, sense of balance. You can tell. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, but that wouldn't apply to a rock. But that wouldn't apply to a rock.
But that's my point. But that's my point. We can imagine it wouldn't apply to a rock, and exactly. So what the universe is for us, though, is that's why I'm a relativist.
Yeah,
what the universe is for a rock, we can't know.
Yeah, but you have to start from somewhere in order to be a relativist. You can't be a relativist.
But I'm starting from my human body. I already have that.
Yes, but that would require you to believe that the universe we live in is the arbitrary point of how you start. It would be the X.
But why would I have to believe that? Couldn't I just suspend belief in that? I don't know. All I know is that I go down, I perceive, therefore I am.
No, but you show me any equation that says I perceive, therefore I'm not. There isn't one.
Well, but that's why I know that I can start from that point. Even though it's a complex point that looks like it's the end of a long process of evolution, and I believe that, but it doesn't change that for me the universe is this series of experiences.
Yeah, it might be an experience of experiences, but what I'm saying is there's no equation in mathematics that says that what we believe is to be true because we leave human consciousness or
see, but you're one of these guys that thinks that systems of mathematics are the same as systems of physics, basically, right?
No,
like
I believe.
No,
hold on. No, I believe that human beings are fundamentally missing out on another understanding of physics and mathematics. That's what I believe. I believe that we ignore that there's a higher potential of mathematics. That's my goal. When you've ever spoke to me, my point in this is that there's a higher level of mathematics that we're just not willing to accept.
Yeah. Well, we agree on that. Like I said, we bonded on that thing. But I have a very different entry into that. I think it's different from you. Cool. From most people, which is that to me, I forget the quote. There's a great quote about this, so I guess I won't even try to say the quote. But basically, to me, it's an amazing coincidence I'm not ready to say the universe is mathematical per se. To me, it's still an amazing coincidence how applicable mathematical patterns are to the universe. You know, that 2,000 or 2,500 years ago, people were playing around with mathematics with conic sections, slicing them, finding parabolas, and that turned out to be the path that a baseball takes when you throw it. That's amazing. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't mean that there's mathematics underneath that. It means that somehow with mathematics we can describe a pattern we found in nature, but I'm not ready to say, like Plato or somebody that's a mathematical idealist, that
Well, neither
means
am
the
I.
universe is mathematical. I'm willing to keep using mathematics to try to understand the universe
Well,
because, hey, look, that worked pretty good. But see, that's pragmatism, not idealism. That's a pragmatic reason for using mathematics as opposed to an idealistic reason.
Well, I think mathematics for me is language. It's just like me and you talking to each other. I think if we can't use the basis of how the universe works or how we interpret it to work, we got no fundamental formulation
Yeah.
for us to communicate. So how I see the human race communicating to their own existence is we require principles, we require rules and laws. Because that's what made us. So for me to ignore that shit would be kind of arbitrary. Now,
Well, I agree with you there. Yeah, you should not ignore it. This is a pretty astounding situation we find ourselves in.
yeah, well, it obviously is, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't say mathematics. Well, I would say mathematics is the be all and end all, but I don't put it as arbitrary as you assume it to be.
Yeah.
From
You're
my
right. Well, because, for example, another way of putting it, see if this makes sense to you. So I would say that mathematics is a language of patterns. So we develop this language to describe the patterns in our sensory, our experience stream.
Yeah.
And I would expect it to work describing that because it was built to do that. It kind of evolved to be able to, accurately describe the patterns that we experience to some degree. But that doesn't explain why it's so useful in relativity or quantum mechanics, things we never experienced until very recently. So evolutionary processes wouldn't make our brain create a pattern system, a pattern language that describes such odd phenomena, and yet it still does.
No, I think this is the thing you're missing now. In order for us to get to the odd phenomenon would require the understanding of mathematics. We got to quantum mechanics through Newtonian physics. We didn't get there anywhere else. People questioned the notion of how we see things to work, right? So you have Newtonian physics, and then we have quantum mechanics, which says in its principle is based in Newtonian physics, actually, which is kind of ironic. But it says, well, I'm not going to agree with what you say. And it's not about how we see the universe in the sense of a pragmatic approach. It's how we apply how we see the universe. Like if you, well, in that respect, if we look at the unified field theory for existence, if we look at that, right, the unified field theory misses what? What's the only thing the unified field theory misses out? The only thing it misses.
That's I don't know that there is a successful unified field theory.
No, but what does it miss out? Why is it wrong in its actual perception of reality?
Well, we're having a language thing because I don't know of any successful unified field theory.
What I'm asking
is
why
gravity, but then QED brings relativism back in, and theoretically they've done pretty well handling gravity.
Okay, I'll tell you. The reason why the unified field theory doesn't work is because it never involved you. It's that simple. There's no life in mathematics. That's I've tried to point that out to Kakumachu.
Well, I would disagree that quantum mechanics comes from Newtonian mechanics very much. It's
oh, come on, dude.
Well, because I would say this, because like the idea of the photon as this particle, when they'd already started to see the wave behavior of it, was a mathematical invention. It's like, well, you know what, we want to explain this phenomena. Let's create this mathematical invention of an oscillator, and it was thought to be just a mathematical invention, and it was actually Einstein that proved, look, this mathematical invention of this photon that is this little oscillator, it's actually physical. We can actually do experiments to find out, look, one photon, one speck, and that lend credibility to it being physical. And to me, that is totally not to be expected. I mean, I would think that a mathematical fiction to describe a phenomena just for practical purposes of being able to describe it should not turn out to be a physical thing. And yet it did turn out to be a physical thing. I guess what I'm saying is that I see there's a lot of arguments in favor of the idea that the universe is sort of fundamentally mathematical, even though I'm not ready to say I believe that.
No, but hold on. I think the thing that I'm guessing we're both agreeing, but I don't think you're accepting the fact that I'm saying it. There's no equation. I'm going to make this very clear. There's no equation. There's no mathematical principle that includes you.
I know, I sort of skated over that, because I'm not sure what you're talking. I mean, I am a relativist and a skeptic, so I am prone to starting from.
So how do you get 1 + 1 is 2? How do you get 1 + 1 is 2? What would you require first? Because you're very analytical. What would you require first to get the answer to the question?
Well, I think there's this evolutionary answer. We
know that we picked
2 fruits. Well, 2 fruits and 2
people.
What
would you get in order to get 2 fruits? What would you get first? You would obviously require observation of such, correct?
Well, right, the stream of perception.
Yes, exactly, and that stream of perception is never applied in mathematics. That's the point. The anomaly in mathematics is actually you, which is the fundamental point of quantum mechanics.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, they never included you in the principle of applied mathematics. That you just didn't. There's no equation for life. I'm sorry, but there isn't. There's no equation. In fact, you can ask any mathematician, why do we exist in the relative universe that we do? In fact, it's a fucking impossibility.
We should not acknowledge that we exist. I mean,
it's not accepted as a principle of mathematics.
Or physics.
Physics, yes, it's the same fucking point.
Because if we're talking about this stream of perceptions, all that physics really seems
is what?
There's this little machine walking around. There is no statement about what it is to be a perceiving entity, to have your subjective.
Mathematics. The closest we've ever got to it is quantum mechanics. That's the closest we've ever got, which would be, you know what, actually, Pyro, if you want to understand where I'm coming from, look up the devil in the sense of Maxwell's demon. Look that up. He was the grandfather of thermodynamics. When you understand his principle, right, and a lot of psycho guys don't. We were very smart. I'm not going to disagree, but they missed the point. In order for you to get an objective point of reality and information and lose information and entropy and shit, you would have to understand that it takes energy. Okay. That's the point. We've never included ourselves in the universe. No one's ever said, why would life, as it stands, as a physical entity, be required in the universe?
Well, see, we are agreeing then, because I guess this is it's a way of putting why I'm not ready to say the universe is mathematical. It's kind of what mathematics misses, and why I still would say that, my beliefs, I love science. I advocate for science, but really, I have a philosophical basis, and it's because in philosophy people have tried to address that question, and they've done a pretty shitty job of it, but at least the question's on the table, whereas it seems like it's been, excluded from these other fields.
Well, I can tell you the obvious, basically. The reason why life exists in the universe is to create a new one, or it wouldn't exist in the first place. You don't have something that's 1 + 1 = 3 in a system that's 1 + 1 = 2. the reason why life exists in the universe is to create a new one. I don't know
That sounds
how.
very natalist, but
It
you mean
it,
the
does,
whole
it,
new
it
universe.
it doesn't sound very natalist. It's just that if you can explain to me in a rational way, I don't care how you say it, but as long as it's rational, if you can explain to me why the universe, based on entropy, which is thermodynamics, would have an entity that's fully aware of its existence in a system that apparently has to end, then you explain to me why life exists in the universe. And I'm telling you, the only logical conclusion is reproduction itself of such. There wouldn't be no other reason at all. There's no reason
Well,
for life to exist in the
if
universe
Gary
other than
watches this
reproduction.
video, his head's finally going to explode. So I think I'm going to actually go at this point. Because it's
You know,
only 11. It must be like 3 your time.
dude, it's 4 a.m.
Oh,
for my
4,
time.
yeah. I
Yeah.
find that 3 is the limit. I've been staying up a couple times all night working, and I find that after 2 it gets to be a little iffy. But all right, I'm going to go, and I'm going to make you go, but I can't make you go to sleep.
Well, you can make me do whatever the fuck you want, basically, because that's based on
But,
your perception. But you know,
and that's right. I can imagine you going to sleep if it makes me sleep better. And
solipsism.
Tommy, I think it really was Tommy, even though you didn't speak. It could be the easiest troll trick in the world, but I'm getting a Tommy vibe from a couple comments. So I'll just prefer to believe that reality as well. So okay, thanks for coming in. This was the longest 10-minute video I've made ever.
Don't blame me. Don't blame me. Just
I'm
saying.
not
And
blaming you.
if anyone wants to disagree with my position, feel free to look up Max Planck or Planck or whatever the fuck you want to call it, and disagree with me on a scientific term, not like arbitrary shit. But I would like you to bring a scientific, understanding to the proposal I just made, because actually I know I'm right at this point. It's
By the
scary
way,
and it's
that's
stupid.
From the Bronx, just to let you know. Now you
Oh,
hear
Okay,
me.
good.
yes,
Now we
Tommy
know
from
for
the
real.
Bronx. We're
Awesome.
ending the toasters, that shit.
Thanks for coming, Tommy, even though you didn't say anything till the end to confirm your identity, which is enough. So, okay, well, that's the old Styzor I remember, but that you're perfectly correct, absolutely, and people can disagree with you if they want to be wrong.
No, they can always be wrong with me if they want to, but as long as they bring information that's credible, I'll be quite happy.
All right. All
I'll be
right,
quite
take it
happy
easy,
to
you guys.
accept my
I'm going to
help.
go.
All right, Pyro.
Thanks
And
for
thank you,
coming in.
Pyro, for hosting this convo.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, thanks for showing up. Okay, bye-bye.